Yeah, it's a little bright. All right, it looks like attendees are joining. Hello, everybody. We're going to get started in just a minute. I just opened it up a little early so we can go ahead and go live on Facebook. So I'm just getting that set up. For those of you who have joined us already, feel free to say hello in the Q&A. You can tell us where you're calling in from. If you already have a question, you can go ahead and put that in there. We'll make sure to get to your questions today. All right, let me get the live stream going. And one reason we do this live stream during the program is because we want you to have access to the recording as soon as the program ends. You know, maybe something happens, maybe you have to leave early. Never fear, you know, the recording is available for you on Streaming Science's Facebook page. All right, I'm seeing people come on in. If you can hear us, because we really view ourselves as co-creating this with you, if you can hear us, let us know in the Q&A. Oh, Carrie's online. Hello, Carrie. She says, looking forward to your presentation. I already know where Carrie's calling in from. She's calling in from Escambia, which is great.
Hi, Carrie.
Hello, hello. Great. Yeah, and we are going to get started in just 3 minutes. I just opened it up a little early just to make sure we were good to go. Everyone says they can hear us, which is great. If at any point, if we push the boundaries of our audio receiver and wander off and you stop hearing us, please tell us. That is very helpful for us. We want to make sure we're not just talking into the void. But if you're watching on Facebook right now, if you went ahead and hopped on the live stream, there's still time to join us on Zoom. We won't be monitoring the Facebook live stream for questions. So if you want to ask us any questions during the broadcast, please join us on Zoom. You can find the Zoom link at bit.ly, bit.ly/ClimateCast live. Once again, that's bit.ly/ClimateCast live. There's still time to join us if you want to ask us questions during the broadcast. All right, I'm seeing people come on in. This is great.
The video.
The video, you turned it off, Dad? 1 second, we're gonna get our video fixed. Give us 1 moment. Our iPad overheated. Okay, that's great. We didn't prepare for this one. Here, Dad, we're pivoting. Here, Dad, we can move it closer. Okay. As you might have gathered, my father is our cameraman for today. So we are trying to cool our iPad down so we can have a live stream. In the meantime, while we wait for the iPad to cool down, I'm going to give you my phone so you can move the video from there. So let me give you the phone. All right, so here you go. You just hold that until the iPad cools down, and we'll go ahead and move it to the shade. Okay, very good. And we can actually put the phone on a tripod just to make it a little easier for the video. So give us 1 moment to get situated.
Do you want to move a little bit closer?
Let me go ahead and get this situated. Thanks everybody for bearing with us. We're gonna get started in just 1 minute. Our equipment overheated, so we lost our stream. 1 moment. And then we're gonna spotlight this for everybody. All right. Good stuff. All right, give us 1 moment before we get started, everybody. Everyone says an overheated iPad in the field is an occupational hazard in Florida. That's for sure. I'm just gonna get our camera set up and then we're gonna go ahead and get started. Here we go. Make sure the video's coming in nicely. That looks great. Okay. So I think we'll go ahead and get started. Perfect. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen so we can get started with some slides. Thanks everybody for being here today. And once again, if at any point you can't hear us, let us know in the Q&A function. So first and foremost, hello. My name is Caroline Nickerson. I'm a PhD student at the University of Florida. And I'm joining you today from Brevard County, specifically from the site of the new Veterans Memorial Rain Garden in the city of Cape Canaveral, Florida. With me is Holly Abeles from UF-IFAS Extension. Hello, Holly.
Hey, Caroline. I'm so happy to be here today. It's hot out, but you know, it's actually a beautiful day.
It's honestly gorgeous today. And in a little bit, we're going to be joined by some of our friends from the city of Cape Canaveral. They'll introduce themselves later because they're going to tell you a little bit about this new memorial rain garden that's coming in and what that means for stormwater. So this is part of the ClimateCast Live series. So ClimateCast Live is, we've been doing it for about a week now. So we were in Sarasota, Escambia County, which is Pensacola. We went to Miami-Dade, and today we're in Brevard. Tomorrow we'll be in Key West. Every program spotlights a different topic. So for example, in Sarasota, we talked a little bit about living shorelines. In Miami, we talked about extreme heat and trees. And today we're talking about stormwater in Brevard. These programs are localized, so you get a lot out of it, I think, if you're a Brevard County resident, especially if you're from Cape Canaveral, but even anywhere in Florida. And we've also had some international attendees. We had somebody from Uganda on the line, which was pretty cool for one of our programs. I think anybody could watch these programs and learn something. Before we get started with the presentation and before I pass the mic to Holly, I want to say thank you to our partners. So we have SciStarter, the North American Association for Environmental Education, IC Change, which I'll tell you about in a little bit. It's a citizen science project I work with, of course. We have UF-IFAS Extension, and then Streaming Science, which is a project based at the University of Florida, as well as my department, the University of Florida Department of Agricultural Education and Communication. All right, so first and foremost, I wanted to let you all know that if you are kind enough to take the survey after the fact, and even if you're watching this recording, you can also take the survey, you can help me finish my PhD. I'm trying to understand how programs like this can impact the way you understand the environment and climate change, topics like stormwater, and ways that you can take action. So at the end of the program, if you would like, you are more than welcome to take a survey to help me out. And the survey is optional. You can just listen and learn from this program. You are under no obligation to do the survey or the follow-up interview that you can sign up for from the survey, but it'd be really cool if you did. And as we stated earlier, the recording is available on the Streaming Science website. You can go to that bit.ly/ClimateCast live link for it. It's also available right now on Facebook, on the Streaming Science Facebook page. And you can, if you have to leave early or you just really love this presentation and you want to share it with your friends and family, you can do that from the Facebook page. All right, so now Holly's going to give us some framing about what climate change is and about the topic of stormwater. And then we'll stop sharing our screens and we'll get in there with a demo of this new rain garden. We'll talk about stormwater in Brevard County. But first, Holly, talk about climate change.
Yeah, of course. That is why we're here, right? So if this is your first time coming to one of these sessions, great. So we're going to learn a little bit about climate change. So climate change is, in the long-term sense, it's basically a shift in the Earth's average temperature and weather conditions over time. Perfect. And if you were a little bit confused as to the difference between weather and climate, weather is basically what you see outside your window today. So we're in Cape Canaveral. It's beautiful out. It's sunny. We got warm temperatures. It's a little, slightly cloudy, but not too bad. So that's basically what you hear every day when the weatherman says, this is what's going to happen today and over maybe the next 5 days, right? It's ever changing. It's not very predictable. And sometimes we have to step outside here in Florida and wonder if it's going to rain today. Climate, though, is a very much long-term. We're looking over basically 30 years of weather data to see how climate has changed, or what it has looked like over those 30 years, and how every decade it has changed from basically the past 30 years into the current 30 years. So we're in a sort of a current climate weather pattern of 30 years, and looking at here in this on your right hand side, the graph showing just the annual mean temperature change, so how that has changed in the period of time that we've been talking about weather. And probably one of the big things you hear about when you hear about climate change is temperature, right? So we have seen a large spike in temperature over the years. That is also related to our climate change. And if anyone remembers the summer of 2023, it was quite hot. And that is certainly the top temperature that we have seen, basically the hottest year that we've seen over, decades and decades and decades. Another thing that we could think about when we're thinking of climate change, not only is just how hot it is, but also the changes in precipitation. And that's really going to be important as we talk about stormwater today. So there is overall a change in precipitation. Some places are going to be more wet, some places are going to be more dry. We've probably heard a lot about drought out west, even though they have seen basically, a lot of rain this winter. So sort of those changes in what's happening. So precipitation is really also important, and maybe not something that's as well looking at climate overall, something that we can see as well as we can see temperature. So overall, and then of course we live here on the coast. Cape Canaveral is a coastal town, so we're basically between the ocean and the Indian River Lagoon. So we're on a barrier island, and sea level rise is really important. So thinking about basically the level of the sea over time and how that's going to affect how water drains into our local water bodies. So there's two reasons why sea levels rise. One is just thermal expansion. If you remember way back when you were in school, when you heat water up, it actually expands. So we see that expansion of water over time because our oceans are heating up and other local water bodies. And then melting of basically land ice, so our glaciers. So that has just allowed water to go into any local water bodies. Like if we have ice, like in our water at home, we put the ice in, we put the water, and the water level doesn't necessarily change, right? Because the ice is displacing the water. But if it's on land and it was draining into your glass, your water would overflow. And we've seen sea level rise, just in the past several decades, even more actually. Some tide gauges across the world have 100 years of looking at what the level of the sea has changed, and that's looking basically at tides and levels in certain areas. So we've seen here, just in our little area, just north of here, there's a gauge at Port Canaveral, and we've seen 6 millimeters per year of sea level rise, and that equates to about 2 feet in 100 years. So I'm 5'3". I'm short, so like 2 feet is a lot if you think about it in that period of time, and that really affects how water can drain basically off of our land into our local water bodies. So stormwater. So I was just talking about how precipitation has changed, sea levels have been rising, and way back when people first came to Florida, one of the big things they were trying to do is just basically drain water off the land, because we're a flat state. We have a lot of water in general, so draining water off the land into any local water body that we could, maybe putting it into canals and then going that to local estuaries or in the ocean. So basically just trying to get water off the land so people could live there. And so because we started doing that a long time ago, we've had sea level rise, that water can't necessarily drain very well now into the stormwater infrastructure that we have today. So when you get a heavy rain, even if it's just a afternoon big rain thunderstorm, you might have instances like this where you see streets filled with water. And so we have seen that basically the mean water level in Cape Canaveral and in this area called the Center Street outfall, where a lot of the water on the streets actually drains and goes into our Indian River Lagoon. But that water level has really changed since that stormwater system was constructed back in the 1960s when people first came here because of the space race and NASA. And so this is what the Center Street outfall looks like if you see like a little Google map image of it. And then this is a picture on the right of one of the project partners on this project we'll be talking about, actually showing how you can't even see the drain coming off the street and going into the water. So the drain is completely underneath the water. And so that obviously doesn't allow water to go into our Indian River Lagoon from the street. It just gets backed up, and that's why we see flooding in our local streets. And so in the city of Cape Canaveral, they've seen a lot of severe weather events, we're not even talking about hurricanes, but we have seen some hurricanes and tropical storms. A lot of cities were built in a time when sea levels were lower, and they were using gravity for water to drain off the streets and into local water bodies. And the city here has seen many severe flooding events just from high rain events. So just having it rain, maybe a couple inches within a really, really short period of time. And the city's done a really great job of looking at having a bunch of weather stations across the city so they can see when they have those high rain events and know that there might be seeing some problems with stormwater in their streets. And so one of the great things the city is doing is incorporating green stormwater infrastructure into their planning and into this particular project that's behind me. So they're actually looking at ways to incorporate green plants and green infrastructure in order to move the water from the street into these areas and hold the water, and having it be like Caroline said, like a rain garden. So in this case, we're calling it a smart rain garden. So it's an area where we know that there is flooding occurring, where we've seen some of those pictures of flooding in the street, and we want that water to go into an area that it can be held and drain quickly, and not continue to be in the streets. So the area that we're in right now is the presidential streets, and I'm sure Zach and Lexi will talk more about it when they come on. But part of their master plan is to look at these areas where we can move water off the street and have it not be flooding, but basically contain it until it can drain into the well-drained soils here.
Question break. All right, so I'll kick it off with a question while we wait for people to get those questions in the Q&A. And then while Holly answers that, I'm gonna go ahead and switch our video feed because it seems like our iPad has stopped overheating. Extreme heat is also a climate impact, everybody. I don't think the heat's extreme today, but just wanted to plug that. But okay, my first question, Holly, is let's say I don't live on the coast, but I still live in Brevard County. Why should I care about this if I don't have a beach house?
You probably still see effects. So that changing precipitation. So there could be times when you could also have just a lot of rain in a short period of time. And maybe you also, even though you might not live on the Brevard Island, maybe you live inland, and you might even see piles of water in areas that maybe once drained before. And really the whole stormwater infrastructure of most places in the United States is very old and was put in at a time when sea levels were lower, when we didn't really have to think as much about where the water moved because it just gradually went off the streets into our local water bodies. So that happens everywhere. So it doesn't matter if you live on the beach here in Cape Canaveral, if you I live in the city of Cocoa, I often see areas that are flooded and have lots of water on streets or just in large puddles. I mean, that's happening everywhere. So you don't have to just live on the beach to see that.
That's a really good point. All right, I'm gonna ask you one more question before we open it up to the Q&A. But another question I have is, so I know we're talking about stormwater today, but could you tell us a little bit more about some of the impacts of climate change you might see in Brevard County?
Yeah, I think it's flooding is probably going to be a big one. Heat will also be another big one. That is something that's really going to affect most areas because we do have warmer temperatures. So like I said, last year, 2023, we all remember the really hot summer, warmest year on record that we have so far. And it really was, it's just detrimental for anyone who needs to be outside for any reason, right? We're lucky here in Florida, we have a lot of places that are air conditioned, but not all places in the United States have air conditioning or normally would have air conditioning like in your homes and stuff like that. But also think of people who work outside, like landscapers, people who are doing construction. You see people working on roads, like all those people are outside working in the heat, of the summer with high temperatures. And that really can affect people's health overall and really, might slow down work from being done because they might not be able to work all day long because of that.
Awesome. Good. That's a really good answer. So thank you for framing all that for us. That was an awesome answer. Okay, we have one more question, and I think we're going to invite our colleagues, Zach and Lexi, to join us on screen. But Cindy wants to know, she says, you have curb extension on your last slide. Can you explain what that is?
Oh, curb extension. Yeah. So it's like basically, normally like with a curb, you might have just like the end of the sidewalk. And maybe not like a lot of vegetation. So curb extension is basically making a wider area where there is vegetation. So you have more area for water to drain into versus having like a sidewalk, which is a surface that obviously water is just going to sit on and not necessarily drain through. So that's one use of a curb extension.
Thank you for that. All right, so if Zach and Lexi want to come over, while they come join us, one last question for Holly. So we have some new folks from UF IFAS Extension who have never heard about UF IFAS Extension who are on the line. Can you tell us a little bit more about what Extension does?
Yeah, so Extension is part of the University of Florida. And actually, there's extension all across the country. Every state has an extension service of some way, shape, or form. It's usually associated with a university. And so here in Florida, it's with the University of Florida. And so we basically take science and research from the university and bring it to our local communities. So every county in the state has an extension office, and we teach things like how to plant a garden, how to have Florida-friendly landscaping. We teach youth as well through 4-H. So a lot of people are very familiar with 4-H, so that's part of extension. Myself, I am an environmental educator, so environmental science is my background, and so I teach about our environments with the Florida Master Naturalist Program, or working with cities like this, you know, talking about green stormwater infrastructure and ways to reduce flooding in our city. So extension is a really great resource that everyone has access to, and I highly encourage you looking up your local extension office in where you are.
Yeah, I have to say extension's awesome. We got Holly here, and also behind the scenes we have Mandy, who helped us when the iPad overheated. So Mandy, we owe you one. All right, so Zach and Lexi, come on in. Hello, hello. So we have our friends from the city of Cape Canaveral here, and they're going to talk to us a little bit about the rain garden. But first, if y'all can introduce yourselves, that'd be great.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Zach Eichels. I'm the Chief Resilience Manager for the city of Cape Canaveral.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lexi Miller, and I'm the Resilience and Services Manager.
Cool. So I know for some of the people online, I think most of them are Brevard County residents. I think we got a few residents of Cape Canaveral here, but this might be their first time hearing from folks like you. So could you tell us a little bit about what the city does? All the services you provide?
So the city of Cape Canaveral is a municipality of about 10,000 individuals. It was incorporated in 1963. It's about 1.9 square miles in size. It's on a bare island, which is vulnerable to things like sea level rise and storm surge and heavy rain events. So within specifically the Resilience Division, which is set within the Community and Economic Development Department, we try and look at forward-thinking solutions to accommodate for 21st century challenges and take advantage of 21st century opportunities.
Oh. And folks are saying it's hard to hear you.
Uh-oh. I was told I have to basically eat this mic. So,
yes.
So it's like as close as I could get it. But I don't know what everybody heard, but I'll just say again that for the city's Resilience Division, which is incorporated into the city's Community and Economic Development Department, we look at forward-thinking solutions to try and accommodate 21st century challenges and take advantage of 21st century opportunities. And that can include things like green stormwater infrastructure, low-impact development practices, renewable energy, energy security, things like that. And the project behind us is actually one of the best examples we currently have of some of the type of stuff that we do in collaboration with other city departments like Public Works Services or capital projects or parks departments, stuff like that.
Awesome. And then Anastasia says, I can hear now, smiley face. So awesome. So, okay, we've talked a lot about the thing that's behind us. Tell us about it. What is it? What are we looking at right now?
Sure. So what's behind us is what we're calling the Veterans Memorial Park Smart Rain Garden Project. It is a National Science Foundation grant funded project that was started on late last year in October of 2023. And it runs through September 30th of this year in 2024. It is basically a project to take what was an existing dry retention area that was just basically like St. Augustine grass and turn it into a rain garden that can accommodate more stormwater and uses Florida native plants to treat that stormwater runoff before it reaches the Banana River Lagoon, which we know is a highly sensitive and endangered water body due to nutrient pollutions like excess nitrogen and phosphorus. So this is basically what we like to call another bucket in which rainwater can go and be treated so that it can be cleaner before entering the environment and also take water off of surrounding roadways, which we know have a propensity to flood, especially in the summer when there's some afternoon thunderstorms.
And then we have a question from Anastasia. Anastasia wants to know, where exactly is this rain garden?
Good question. It is at Veterans Memorial Park, which is just to the east of the Cape Canaveral Public Library, which itself is just to the east of Cape Canaveral City Hall, located on Taylor Avenue and Orange Avenue. So that is where we are right now. We are about 3 blocks west of the Atlantic Ocean.
Cool. Yeah, definitely. And when can people come visit? When will the rain garden be ready?
So you can come and visit anytime. There's sidewalks all around the park where you can look in through the construction fencing and see the project as it's ongoing. But in terms of when it's going to be finished itself as a project, we're probably looking at sometime in the spring of 2024, as well as the overall rehabilitation of Veterans Memorial Park itself, probably looking more towards summer of 2024.
Good stuff. All right. So unless you have anything else to add to the intro, I think we'll have our cameraman, my father, take the iPad off its tripod and we'll get in there and get a closer look at the rain garden.
Gonna go handheld. That sounds good.
Yeah, sounds good. All right. So Dad, I think he's going to take it over there first. So what is that thing
Okay.
that my father is currently advancing on?
Okay. So, well, I guess we'll just commentate as he goes along. But,
Sounds good. Yes, he's there.
So he's currently looking. Oh, nice shot. He's currently looking at a pre-treatment device called a Rain Guardian, and this is definitely an enhancement over what was at this current location, which was just basically a concrete cutout to take stormwater off of the library's parking lot and put it into the dry retention area that this was. This new device allows for the same thing that basically happened to be, but in a more efficient way because it's a little larger, and it also screens big pieces of debris like litter from people or litter from, say, like organics like leaves or sticks, so that it doesn't make it into the rain garden. And it's filtered through a screen that's built inside that can be changed out when it's full of debris, and a new one put back in place for easy maintenance. So like I said earlier, it's basically a pre-treatment device that allows for just more treatment of the water before it goes into the rain garden itself. And once it's in the rain garden, the plants have a big help in treating the water. There's going to be almost 1,000 Florida native and Florida friendly plants surrounding the rain garden, some of which you can already see planted, like mullygrass right here in the foreground. So yeah, it's just another method of treatment. There's 3 of these around the site, 2 of which are built off of existing areas where water could get in, one of which is completely new, and that's on the sidewalk at Taylor Avenue and Orange Avenue. You actually walk right over it. You might not even realize you're walking over it, but it just allows for more water to get in there a little bit faster and off the streets.
That's awesome. So talk us through some of the other things that make this project what it is, make it so cool. Yeah, Lexi, let's hear about it. And if you want to move a little closer, perfect.
So a big part of this project and it coming to fruition has to do with the community engagement component. That National Science Foundation grant that Zach had mentioned, to be considered successful, had to incorporate community engagement. So essentially, we had to work with residents in the Cape Canaveral community.
People are saying hard to hear.
In the Cape Canaveral community to figure out what it was that they were concerned about in their areas, in their neighborhoods. And flooding is something that we're always kind of talking about as a government with our community. So we had a number of planning, we call them charrettes or workshops, where we were able to talk to the public about what it was they were seeing in their area in terms of flooding and some of the solutions that might help them, and that also might be a little bit more aesthetically pleasing than, say, a typical structure that we put underground. So some plants, an existing park, just kind of getting a nice enhancement was all part of that plan. So as much as we could, we tried to get public buy-in. We tried to get some public education out there when it comes to stormwater management that are nature-based solutions. And then obviously implementation, we encourage everybody to walk on by, ask questions about what's going on. We should have some signs coming in pretty soon. And then actually later today over at City Hall at 6:30, we have another workshop planned for anybody who might be interested in volunteering to put some plants in the ground when the time comes.
That's awesome. I'll be at that workshop tonight, so come hang out. It'll be a good time. I'll be an attendee, so you can learn alongside me from Lexi and Zach. So Lexi, it's really cool that y'all have gotten public buy-in at every step in this process. I know you also have some volunteer opportunities related to this. Is that right?
Yes. We don't have a date quite yet. We're working with our construction contractor to figure out exactly when members of the public and any volunteers would want to be able to put plants into the ground, but that's part of our plan. So the workshop tonight that Caroline mentioned, it's just kind of a get ready. This is what we're looking to do. You can be involved, in a really, really special way by literally planting the space that you're in, planting your park.
That's fantastic. All right, everybody, get your questions in. I'll ask one more question. Oh, Anastasia says, I live in Indian Harbor Beach. I will check it out the next time I'm up that way. Awesome. Yeah, Anastasia, come visit. Very cool. I'll ask one more question before we turn it over to our attendees. So I know you all do a lot of different things at the City of Cape Canaveral. What about this project is particularly special to you? Why do you enjoy it so much?
I think this project, it really kind of strikes the balance between functionality and aesthetics. So the idea that our stormwater, typically and traditionally is kind of put underground, put into a pipe and sent on its way, is something that we're really not trying to do anymore as engineers or as planners or as city officials. So repurposing an existing space that people could kind of already enjoy into something that's more aesthetically pleasing, more functional, and then also showcases these nature-based solutions that are going to be a big part of combating a lot of what Holly and Zach talked about with storm surge and sea level rise and these heavy rain events. It just kind of goes to show that you don't just hit one nail on the head with these types of projects. You can kind of be multifaceted and really serve a number of purposes for your community.
That's so cool. And we actually have a picture of what it's going to look like on this slide. So everybody, sneak preview right here. That's what you will come and visit soon. And you got to see a little taste of that with the construction site. So let's see if there are any questions from folks. While we wait for those questions to come in, I mean, Zach and Lexi, is there anything else about the rain garden you want to highlight that you didn't get a chance to yet?
Yeah, I think I would also like to add that when I said the title of the Veterans Memorial Park Smart Rain Garden, I'll just expand a little bit more on what the smart part of the name means. So this rain garden, besides using obviously nature to do a lot of the water treatment, we also want to be able to understand what is actually happening in the rain garden and how effective it is at doing what it's supposed to be doing in terms of taking stormwater off the street or treating nutrients that are going into it. So it'll be wired up with a collection of sensor sites that will be able to showcase how much water is going into it, the amount of nutrients going in and out, as well as local atmospheric and climate data in the form of a weather station that was installed by Florida Atlantic University next to the site, so we can know exactly what's going on. So we say, we can get a number of how much water was put into it and correlate that to a specific rain event that we saw using the weather station. So it'll be able to speak to us, which I think is pretty cool.
Oh, that's fantastic. We got some questions coming in. Anastasia wants to know, do you think people will complain about mosquitoes, and do you think that they will end up spraying?
No, the spraying, there should be no spraying in here. That's for sure. We don't want to do that in this particular piece of infrastructure. And also, in terms of whether or not it should be filled with water, it actually should be filled with water almost at no time during the year, except for maybe after a very heavy rain event. The soil here is very good at percolating water because it's very sandy. It's just a lot of sections have been paved over, unfortunately, in past development practices. So it's about finding areas to put the water through areas that aren't paved, that have new vegetation and whatnot. So there really won't be much water for mosquitoes to get to because it will be dry most of the time that this piece of infrastructure is here, which is nice.
Cool. That's good to know. So no spraying, to answer Anastasia's question. And then another question for Lexi and Zach from Kristen. Kristen wants to know, what will it be like to maintain the rain garden? Will it be maintenance heavy?
That's a good question. That's something that definitely has to be factored in when doing low impact development and green stormwater infrastructure. So in terms of maintenance, we're definitely going to be having a citizen component where we would like to open up volunteer opportunities to do maintenance. Other than that, it will be, on city staff to do maintenance, and we'll check up on it every month or so, just to see how things are going. I think doing the maintenance with citizens would be very cool because it allows them to get involved more and to show them, what are the best landscape practices for Florida native infrastructure. There is also a level of letting the site be wild in a sense, not letting it obviously look unkept, but definitely giving it a natural appeal as we try and return the site to a little bit more of a, pre-human usage look to allow it to do its job better at stormwater treatment.
Cool. And then one more question from Cindy before we get back to some other stormwater solutions. I think this is actually a great segue. Cindy wants to know, are there certain plants or land cover you prefer for containing the stormwater in someone's yard? And a follow-up question to that from Cindy is, will you have labels for the plants used in this rain garden so we can learn what is preferred? So if someone can't have this in their backyard, what plants do you think they should plant?
I can take the second one. So that's an important point to bring up about like signage and education. So there will be educational placards placed around the site next to the walkways where people can see what it is that they are looking at in terms of what this is and why it's important, as well as information about the plants used within it. There's, I think, about a dozen species that are used in here. Like I said earlier, Florida friendly and Florida native. So others are certainly better than others for taking stormwater and treating it. I don't know if you want to take that one, but
Yeah, so it's hard to say exactly exactly what will work at each site, right? There's a big component of right plant, right place to definitely take a page out of Holly's book. And actually, depending on the size of your site and some of the hydrology in your yard, a great place to start would be a UF IFAS resource. So there's a ton of resources about how to plant a Florida native yard, how to manage stormwater, even how to construct a rain garden, DIY style, all on UF IFAS. And I can testament, personally and professionally, having used those resources before. So there's a ton of really good resources out there. Obviously a mix of ground cover, shrubbery, trees is going to be what a lot of people go for in terms of balance. And at the end of the day, how you want your space to look is definitely achievable with Florida natives, Florida friendlies that can also, balance that aesthetic with that function in your yard.
Awesome. And then Anastasia says, I prefer the natural landscape look. Well, awesome. You can come to the rain garden, come see it, and plant some Florida friendly plants in your yard. We have a question from Lacey. Lacey wants to know who will compile and analyze all the smart data the sensors get.
Good question. That will be one of our academic partners, or a few of them, I should say. That will be the Florida Institute of Technology, Stetson University, and Florida Atlantic University.
Awesome. Good partnerships there. All right. Well, if we don't have any more questions, I think we can give you all you got an example of a stormwater solution here today from the city of Cape Canaveral. And then Holly has some more solutions that she wants to spotlight about things that you can do to help address the issue of stormwater. So Zach and Lexi, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yay.
Thanks to Zach and Lexi. They do amazing work here in the city. So if you ever have a chance to come and talk to them, they're always excited to talk to people. And really, this project could not be done without their enthusiasm and with the enthusiasm of the city itself. There was a great question about what you could do in your own yard. And Lexi had a great segue talking about University of Florida IFAS extension resources. And like I mentioned before, one of those resources has to do with Florida-friendly landscaping. And so a lot of people use this resource when you're thinking about using natives in your yard and what that looks like, what types of things will grow in your planting zone. And so that is certainly the place where I would send people so that you can think about what it is that you can do in your yard. But two of the principles that are really important when we're talking about stormwater or just water in general is reducing that runoff from going off of your land into the local street or environment, and then protecting the waterfront. So if you do have water near you, making sure that there is an area that's not mowed and that water can easily kind of percolate, so you don't just have grass that goes all the way to the water. So a couple of things that you can do is, I actually stole this from the city of Cape Canaveral today in their weekly newsletter. So they promoted spreading grass clippings on your lawn, and that helps to reduce the need for fertilizer because you're basically just introducing nutrients from those grass clippings right onto your lawn. And then Florida native plants, one of the reasons why we're using it in this project, but then why people like to have them in their yards in general, is that they in general require less fertilizer, pesticides, and sometimes water. Obviously, when you're establishing plants, you need to water and probably apply some fertilizers to help them grow when they're getting established. But after a period of time, maybe 6 months or so, you can water them potentially less, maybe not apply as much fertilizer, because they're well adapted to our Florida environment and to the ecosystems that they live in. And then if you're thinking about mowing, setting your mower height to 3 inches or higher, that also just keeps your grass maybe a little bit taller, and that helps it to also kind of have a deeper root system, but also hold more water and nutrients onto your lawn. So I just have a couple of pictures that I put in here thinking about stormwater infrastructure across lots of different places across Florida. And so when you're thinking about maybe yourself and where you live and what you can do, if you or if you're renting, or if you live like in a condo association and you need to talk to a property manager about that, reach out to them, let them know about these green stormwater infrastructure resources and processes and Florida native landscaping, and let them know that these projects really do help us make the landscape aesthetically pleasing. It also is lower maintenance overall. And so over time, there can be less maintenance and money spent towards that maintenance or hiring landscape company. And really, it does also enhance property values. So it is a boom to people that have this type of landscaping because it can make your property values higher in general.
Yeah, I mean, that's a throwback to our Sarasota program. We talked about living shorelines. And one case that Armando, who you heard from in Sarasota, the case he made for a living shoreline is planting those plants. Actually, you gain value over time from your living shoreline, whereas with a seawall, you lose value. So this is true with stormwater as well, right?
Yep,
yeah, good stuff.
And then if you're thinking about what's happening in your city, so if you live in the city of Cape Canaveral, or we had someone who lives in Indian Harbor, I believe she said, basically talk to the staff within your city, like ask them what it is that they're doing, like ask if they can incorporate either low impact development or green stormwater infrastructure into city properties like the city is doing here. So this is, a city property, and they've worked really hard to incorporate and make the smart rain garden happen, right? And with community input as well. So the community saying, yes, this is something that we want. So without that community input, how is local government supposed to know what it is that you want unless you let them know? So a lot of communities have a lot of resources and availability for making your voice heard. And I highly encourage you to do that and just let them know what you want to see in your city.
Fantastic. Yeah, if you take nothing else away from today's program, it's that your local leaders are friendly and here for you and they want to help. So all right, Holly gave us some solutions. I also wanted to end with a citizen science component. So a little bit more about the Veterans Memorial Smart Rain Garden here in Cape Canaveral, and you can come visit. There will also be opportunities to volunteer, and we got that class tonight if you want to stop by City Hall. And you heard from Holly about like Florida friendly plants in your yard. Public can move science forward, typically by collecting or analyzing data for ongoing research projects. And we lost our sound momentarily. Okay, perfect. Oh, and people are giving some feedback. They're saying the canopy coverage in that last pic was beautiful. And Anastasia also said, the Florida Native Plant Society is a great organization to learn from and volunteer with as well. Yeah, definitely, shout it out. Good stuff. But yeah, so citizen science is any way a member of the public gets to move science forward. An example would be taking water quality measurements with a kit you could use at home. Or another example would be taking pictures of different plants and animals and sending those observations into scientists so they can understand the species distribution. Or a lot of people do citizen science for astronomy. They help monitor the night sky, maybe take light pollution measurements. Often it's all about collecting or analyzing data, and data is just information. Data can be words and pictures, and data can also be, numbers and measurements. So why do we do citizen science in regard to the environment and climate change? Well, I know for me, climate change is something that really scares me. I am freaked out by the fact that I'm going to see more flooding in my community. I am worried about the fact that, temperatures globally are getting hotter. And the environmental problems that result in part due to climate change are also really scary as well. But when we're scared of something, right, what do? We can take action with like adaptation, like the stormwater solutions you heard about today. And you can also take action by trying to understand the problem better. Because the thing about climate change is it's hyper local. The way I experience climate change might be different than my friend across town. Maybe I'm more likely to get heat stroke from the new temperatures because there are fewer trees on my street. Trees help cool things down. If I have fewer trees, I might be more likely to get sick. Or maybe my friend across town is less likely to experience flooding because her house is at a higher elevation than me. So climate change is hyperlocal, and these climate impacts that we see are super granular. So when you do citizen science, you can help study the problem community by community, street by street. So when you feel powerless in the face of environmental problems and climate change, hopefully citizen science can help you take that power back. So a project that I do a lot, and they partnered with me for my PhD, is called I See Change. It's basically a citizen science project that turns anybody and everybody into a climate reporter. So what does that mean? It means that they ask you to take pictures and describe climate impacts in your community. So as you can see on the screen, this is Lauren in Miami Beach. She's taking a picture of sunny day flooding that was after a recent storm and high tide. And she gives her assessment of the impact on her community. She says there are lots of sidewalks being flooded during the recent storm and tide. I saw a senior walking through the watery areas and I'm worried he'll slip. This picture that she took and these words that she provided are important qualitative data, words and pictures that are paired with the quantitative data like inches of rainfall and when the storm started, the time of day. When we put the quantitative data and the qualitative data together, we get a full picture of climate impacts. So icy change, it's super simple to participate and researchers do use this data and you can do it from anywhere. It's a global project. You just create an account. And if you create your account with the same email address you use to make your SciStarter account, which is one of the funders of today's program, they helped support us to put this on. Everything tracks back in your SciStarter dashboard. That's like the world's biggest citizen science website. So SciStarter is a great resource if you like this sort of thing. But anyway, you make an icy change account, you just post what you see, and then you can go through the feed and learn from others. And it's also part of the follow-up interviews I'll do after this program if you want to participate in those. All right, we have one final question break, everybody. So get them in. This is your last chance before we close up today. You got to hear a little bit about climate change from Holly. Then Zach and Lexi explained the new Veterans Memorial Rain Garden project. We talked a little bit about stormwater solutions and how you can be a part of them. And then I just gave you an overview of citizen science if you're interested in monitoring climate impacts, no matter where you are in your community. So you got a whole smorgasbord of opportunities today from our friends at the City of Cape Canaveral, from our friends at UF-IFAS Extension, and of course that I provided from my citizen science perspective. Kristen said, this has been great. Thanks for the program. Love the citizen engagement and all the info. Keep up the great work. Oh, thanks, Kristen.
Great, thanks, Kristen.
Cindy wants to know, do you sign up for IC Change through SciStarter? You can. If you go to scistarter.org and you type in IC Change, you can find the project there. That's what I recommend doing, but I'll also include it in the follow-up email from today's program. And if you're watching on Facebook, you can also find IC Change on SciStarter as well. Any other last questions? Last chance while people get their final questions in. Holly, is there anything else you want to say that you haven't had a chance to say yet?
No, I'm just so excited that you came out today and that we were able to talk to everyone about Veterans Park
Yes.
Smart Rain Garden. It is getting to the end of the day. But
Yes.
Thank you so much.
It's kind of a tongue twister.
Right? Thank you so much for coming out today. And I'm excited about your PhD and hopefully getting more people excited about IC change and being part of citizen science.
Yes, and if you want me to finish my PhD, make sure you do today's survey. All right, so that's all, folks. I don't see any more questions. Anastasia says, I concur with Kristen. Oh, Anastasia, I'm so glad you enjoyed. Oh, and Kristen actually has a question. She wants to know, do you have a Facebook presence or page? All right, well, this is a good segue because we're in the final resource recap part of the presentation. So you can stay in touch with your local extension office at brevardextension.substack.com. I'll also include that in the follow-up email. If you're interested in updates or volunteer opportunities associated with the Rain Garden Project, you can come to tonight's class at 6:30 at the City of Cape Canaveral. You can also fill out this form that I will include in the follow-up email. So those are both resources for you as well. And if you want me to finish my PhD, once again, you can fill out this survey. I'll put the link in the chat so you all can click on that, or you can also just type it in your browser. So bit.ly/ClimateCast survey. Please do that. That's different than the final question Zoom might ask you as you exit. This is the survey that we actually use to help me finish my PhD. So everyone watching, please fill that out if you feel so inclined. It's not mandatory.
It is so important though. Science and education and citizen science and engaging with all of you today has been really great. So, and Caroline needs to finish her PhD.
Yes,
so
please take pity on me, everyone. And also you can suggest different things in there because we're going to be circulating the results of these surveys to people who might host programs like this. We want to make them better and engaging for you so you can take action on issues you care about, like stormwater. All right, and I think that is it. So if you have any final questions, you can always email me. I'm at cnickerson@ufl.edu. But otherwise, I think we'll end today's program. I'm just going to check the Q&A one more time. All right, I'm not seeing anything. Okay, then that is it. Good night or good evening, everybody.
Yeah, have a great rest of your afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming out today.
Thank you.